Good afternoon and welcome to UnitedTV. My name is Kemal Erkan. Today is March 15th, 2024. This is our weekly event. And so we have several different topics today we are going to go through. And I was in our Turkey office in the last couple of weeks, and then we did have, right before I left, we had an event. And then I had one event in Turkey with our Deputy Dean of Political Science Faculty of Ankara University. As we promised everyone, every 3 months while I'm in Turkey, we are going to actually have one event in Turkish from our Turkey office. So that was our second one so far. So as we are going through troubleshooting our technical issues, so Sean is working on his computer.
So you'll see, I do have the other screen now as the visual for your Turkey session. So that should be being displayed.
So do you want to switch to that laptop then for your own?
Yes, it's just.
It did work in the beginning, so I don't know what happened. Which is.
I can blur my background if that works.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Let me go here.
All right, so.
Okay, the time being. You can see me now?
Yes.
Okay, my background is blurred. Yes, for some reason the other one is not loading, so you'll have a blurred
I
background.
mean, remember I make references to the Turkish guy who has like 1.5 million subscribers, and this is where he makes his money, Junaid Özdemir. I mean, when I watch his daily stuff, we look like a pro next to him, so it's fine. I don't think anyone is gonna have mine.
Perfect.
So just like last week when I had the event in Turkey, so it was in a different place. So with the background, people may not even know that I was there. So with my virtual background.
Yeah.
So, but then apparently my phone just went off. So those things are going to happen. But let's start with capturing what happened with our last event.
So just for those who were unaware, as Kemal mentioned, he was in Turkey for about 2 weeks, and during that time, you're able to meet with. It was originally going to be the Dean of Faculty of Political Science at Ankara University, but I believe it was his assistant or
his deputy.
Deputy.
Yeah. So what happened was Dr. Orhan Çelik, who was the dean, he was going to be with us. The reason he was going to be with us, it's related to the school, but it wasn't directly for school. There is a foundation, nonprofit. I think it was one of the people who graduated from let's call it Mülkiye. So Mülkiye is the name that the first name that we had for our college.
Sure.
So that family donated their apartment building. I think it was 40, 50 years ago. And in time, it was like in the beginning, it was really helpful. But then because of the development and having these other places appreciating better, so it wasn't bringing enough rent income for the foundation that we have. So Dr. Çelik, he decided to actually incorporate that foundation into the school, into our faculty. So that was 2022. I'm also on the board of this foundation, and it's called BT Mülkiye Vakfı in Turkish. So we are going to be supporting those who have financial difficulties, and as well as there's a second type of support for those who are extremely successful in their SATs and they choose political science faculty as their first choice. So then they will be rewarded for if they have options to go to 5 different colleges, but they choose us over for others. So hopefully it's going to be one of those. So there's I'll tell you this. there's some cultural issues. So what we have in the United States, in some cases, it should be mandatory for people to leave the country, go different places in the world, and come back. Because we get used to what we have here, and we think that everything is same. Every part of the world is same. It's not. So I would say from this type of non-profit related activities or structures, countries are probably 120 to 150 years behind the United States. And I'm not exaggerating. So just think about what we did with Brandywine Valley SPCA.
Yeah.
So we were able to raise almost the entire amount of $7 million for the first animal hospital with the ICU in Delaware, and that all came from private people, right? So that's happening in a different way in Turkey. People do help, but they either do it directly, and then they don't want to actually broadcast what they are doing. But that's why I'm saying when I say there's cultural, I'm not saying good or bad. It's a different culture.
Sure.
So they don't want people to know that they are helping someone. So there's still that. If you talk to my dad, he would never say what he's doing for others. But we know that he's doing it. But here, the reason we do it maybe differently, and the reason this works, because we want this to be an example for others, so then they should be able to do what we are doing, because every little bit helps. So I know from our SPCA organization, many of those, the big part of that donation is coming from small donors. So from like the Facebook, Instagram, and other places when we do events. So it's not like someone is just giving us $3 million.
Right.
So because of that, these are really important. And that's why I got involved. Since we have an office there, it actually kind of makes sense from that point.
So like as an alumni yourself, so just again, like you said, it's totally different, just culture and different way of life, say US to Turkey. So just for people here, maybe like understanding size wise, like how many like students like are at Ankara University, correct?
So I think the Ankara University is a big one now.
I mean, I might be put on
You put me on the spot. Good job. So I have my iPad right in front of me. So let's see. I think it's huge.
'cause I mean, even just talking like population wise, so say
I want to say 30,000, but it's more than 30,000, I think.
okay, so definitely a larger
number of
just trying to give people like
students.
comparison. So say like maybe like a larger state.
70,000.
70. Okay. That's
So there's a little kind of nuance there. So here's what happens. So my college, which is part of Ankara University, actually is the first college in the Ottoman Empire time. So this is, I think, 160 years now. And then they were on their own for a long time. And after the Turkish Republic, then we merged into Ankara University.
okay.
Now, if the president of Ankara University is listening, he may not like what I'm about to say, but I'm an independent person and I don't have any ties. So I'm gonna probably say we normally don't say we are from Ankara University. So if you ask me where I finished college, I would say political science faculty, which is Mülkiye, because this is the school, this is the brand of colleges in Turkey. So it's kind of like the faculty is higher in the hierarchy than the university itself. Now, Ankara University is a huge university. It's in the top 700 in the world. All those are fine, but from the faculty standpoint, like in my eye and in many's eye, the dean of the faculty probably is more respected than the president of the school. So just think about it. Now, why is that? Because it's like last week, I did actually mention when we were having issues with Tigray and when I was working with Dr. Erkan to reach out to people, my term from 1991 to 1996, more than half of those people from my college, they are in the highest places in the government, or like more than half of them are either the ambassador or the counselor.
Wow.
So which helped a lot because we were able to, like, I was able to friend request someone from LinkedIn. I got an answer in 24 hours. Now, I cannot say the same thing for Ankara University. So, but it's one of the best ones there as well. Anyhow, so now, I mean, like, I posted a picture last week. I don't know, I know you saw it, but I don't know others. In our dean's office, there are like paintings that's 150, 170, 200 years old, and they're there. I mean, it's amazing. It's an amazing place. And I do want to thank Dr. Orhan Çelik for involving me, allowing me to participate in the foundation, because not everyone actually is able to understand what needs to happen, and not everyone has the same vision. And Dr. Çelik actually is way ahead of his time, and he's going to probably do a lot more things for the places that he's in. So, and I visit him every 3 months when I go there.
Oh, that's really, I mean, it sounds like from what I'm hearing that it probably wouldn't be surprising if you had another session with
Yeah,
him in the future.
Definitely. So next time we'll have him, or maybe the following time, but we'll have him at some point.
Very good.
So you want to go to the US elections?
Yep. So we'll just switch our graphic here. So as we know, we have been following the elections. Both this is presidential and obviously more specific to Delaware where we are. So there are a few updates that we have. So this graphic here you'll see is broken down for the state of Delaware election. So we have by position they're running for. We have US Senate, Congress, governor, and then lieutenant governors. These are the main four that we've been keeping tabs on throughout. I guess it's over a year now, almost.
Yeah.
I want to say since we started, planning these sessions. So
I don't think anyone else is covering the Delaware elections the way that we are doing.
Honestly, no. Like I'd be surprised. Like you would think that maybe like any type of media newspaper outlet or even web-based. But no, I think we're the most in depth in regards of also getting the candidates to come and join and actually speaking to us. Again, we've tried to get everybody, give them their fair chance to, voice, basically their campaign to everyone. So as like I was gonna say, some of the people that you'll recognize their names right here have already been on our show during this political series leading up to it. So for the US Senate, we still have Lisa Rochester, who's actually gonna be joining next week. So she will be here. Mike Katz, as we know, independent, already has joined. And then at the bottom, we did not hear back from William Taylor, the Republicans.
So Republicans in Delaware, they need to get their acts together. If I almost think that there must be some other benefits that they are just running for the office, because they're not. They don't have any desire to win because they don't communicate. So this is not the first one we reached out. Almost all of them, none came back. When we reach out to any of the Democrats in 24 hours, we hear back from them. Same thing with Dr. Katz also is the same. So I don't know what they are thinking, why they're running. This Eric Hansen put $400,000 of his own money, or $420,000. So then, but then he doesn't respond back to us. So
right, interesting.
There may be some other benefits. Maybe they will get extra money and then keep it. I don't know.
Well,
who knows?
I'll have to start running myself. Come
next election. So we'll have you and John Donnelly and Anthony Onugu.
Ready. So yes, then going to the Congress column, we do have, you'll see Sarah McBride, Eugene Young, and Alex Geis. So of those, we did speak with Sarah and Eugene, as well as Colleen, who did recently drop out of the race and then supported Sarah.
And 3 weeks ago, I did say that she was going to drop out, and she did
accurately predict that. So yeah, so we still have Eugene is still going with, I guess, like him and Sarah would be the two main for the Democrats.
Sarah's gonna win. So and we like Eugene. He's a really nice guy, but this is Sarah's game. So she's gonna actually win big time, and she should. So I'm sure Eugene will be able to do some other things, and he'll be in important places in the future, but he's not there yet, in my
He
opinion.
is still young in the political realm.
Yeah. I mean, Sarah is probably younger than him, but in terms of
Involved.
experience and getting involved in politics, she's ahead of the game. So the governor race is going to be an important one.
Correct. Yep. So you got Bethany Hall and then Matt Meyer, the two main that were getting the attention from the Democratic Party. And then just as of, I guess, yesterday or the day before, we have a Colin O'Mara has now entered.
It's so interesting, like how like we didn't know that this was happening as we were getting ready. The information comes up with this Colleen. Is it Colin or Colin?
Colin. So I think it's also interesting too, like that approach, the strategy. I mean, obviously the election's coming up already, middle of March. I personally, like if I were running a campaign, especially depending on how they're financing, like you would assume you'd want to get in as soon as possible. Like this is something I don't think coming late to the game necessarily brings any
But Bethany
benefit.
is going to win this. So, like getting into this, that's why I'm thinking that there must be either they want to put their name out there for the future, getting some name recognition, or some other benefits. I'm going to look into whether or not they're able to keep the finance,
A portion of the fund.
yeah, maybe. Who knows? Now, in the lieutenant governor race, there's not much change yet.
Yeah, Kyle Evans Gale and Sherry Dorsey Walker, both of which were on the show.
Right, and then we'll have other people. Our current governor, he was scheduled for today. He's in Miami. I don't know if I was allowed to say this, but I already did. So there's some last minute changes happen, but he's coming back next month.
Yeah.
And then we'll have some other.
And then you said he's running for its mayor of Wilmington, correct? And then it looks like
yes,
Jerry
he
Price.
didn't go public fully on that one yet, but they're raising money.
Yeah, and then if not, there's also, I think the name was Jerry Price, we saw as somebody that's running.
And then actually Valerie Longhurst. So when we do these, again, I'm a full-time businessman, so Sean is a full-time business development associates. So this is not our,
This is
this is not our real work. So what happens when we confirm people and then we have we work based on their schedule. We don't want to change the time of our event unless there are some reasons, some exceptions we make, which is going to happen next week. But the person who's coming next week was scheduled 3-4 times already. So we always expect those things. But at the end of the day, they will be here before the election.
All right, one way or another.
One way or the other, yeah. So actually, I was with Bethany Hall long last Monday night. That was right after I came back from Turkey. There was a fundraising. She has the right energy. She's incredible. So, and I know her now for 3-4 years. Every time I see this, she's focused. She's fresh with her ideas, understanding what we are doing, what we need from the healthcare standpoint. She's amazing. I think she's going to be a great governor. But that race is the only one that I'm kind of maybe like not 100%, but 97%, because she still needs to work a lot. Matt Meyer is also raising a lot of money. One thing is there's a little bit misinformation when you look at the fundraisings. It looks like if he was ahead of the game, but he put 400,000 of his own money. That's a lot of money, but I don't know. That's sometimes they say this, but it's on the bottom of the page. No one reads, so it's not the actual money that he raised. But the important thing is whether or not you have that money, because you need to use it for advertising and other things anyway. So it doesn't matter where the money is coming from, but it matters because if it's coming from the donors, then you know that you already have the support.
Yeah, the support.
So I mean, if I were them, like before it's too late, I would just drop out by June. That would be the right thing. So then if he really wants it, he can do it 8 years after Bethany's terms, because he's also not ready. So he's probably not going to like what I say, but I do believe that he's doing a good job where he is now, but not in the position of the governor. That requires a lot of experience, and we need that. So, like, imagine if the CEO is replaced every 4 years. So then every time, or every 8 years, it has to be, right? So then, but every 4 years you have a new CEO. Like, I wouldn't want to own that company. So, I mean, Susan Anderson and I, we've been working together for 22 years or 23 years. So, how are you going to replace the knowledge and the familiarity and the understanding of what needs to be done? So that's why Bethany is way ahead of the game, but it's going to be a close race.
Yeah. So one other thing, just on the election, before we move on to our other talking points. So in terms of the presidential election, it seems like it might be a repeat from the previous election, with Joe Biden being the Democrat nominee, and then Donald Trump. Because I know we were tracking the Republican one back with, say, when Vivek announced, and then also Nikki Haley.
She's gone.
Yeah, so it looks like it will be a repeat for that. So that's something to keep our eyes on. Interesting.
Yep.
I mean, election time. So that was our update as of now. But as we know, things are ever changing. We have people dropping and adding in, seems like on a daily basis here. So we're getting people just from yesterday. So as we are made aware, we'll update and keep you guys aware.
They should be following. People should follow what we are doing. So the winners will be in this channel anyway. So now, should we go to the US news?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you want to, was that specific to the healthcare issue, or?
We can actually do that now if you would like.
The lawsuit. Okay. Just, I'm not sure how much time it takes in an effort to not have it potentially get cut off. I just want to make sure that we're able to cover this at least in a depth that shows the understanding and the complexity behind it. There is, various layers to kind of this issue that we're going to be bringing up here. So just to introduce, I'll give a brief, and then obviously Kemal will go into a little bit more detail. But in the past few years, we've seen a few different lawsuits come about regarding healthcare fraud and different allegations being brought to the public's attention. So some of them are from whistleblowers and whatnot. But before we go into too much depth, I'll let you kind of just give from the healthcare, experience background before we kind of go in.
So our issue, the question is around the healthcare fraud and what is maybe happening, what people are reading in the news, what type of frauds are happening. Now, we are a healthcare provider, like United Medical, through United Medical Clinic, and for our clients, United Medical ACO. So we are always subject to that. Now, one thing that I say is the idea or my principle is as long as I'm aware of it, at least I try to do this. So unless you do something you don't bill for. Okay, so let's look at kind of like what type of fraud cases that we see. Like people double bill. When I say people, facilities or the medical professions. So they send multiple claims for the same services. The term called phantom billing. So this is billing for services or supplies never received or never provided. Unbundling, there are cases where it should be billed together for the same service, but then there are facilities, especially they do this, they may do the unbundling. And one of the most common one is the upcoding. Now, Sean, it's been 24 years for me personally in healthcare. So the principal issue is what I seen. There are really all of them are crime, right? Some of them they are kind of in a gray area where you feel like you bill for a service. And in the old days, I say old days, but 6 years, maybe up to 6 years ago, uh, and I'm going to give my perspective from the ambulatory practices, outpatient practices standpoint. What used to happen is because everything is driven by the fee for service, so and then that fee for service is based on the CPT code, which is the visit level. So let's focus on like 99213, 99214, and 99215. 5 being the highest, then level 3 being the lowest. In this three of them, so someone would bill level 5 instead of billing level 4. But the thing is, service is provided. So then it's not, I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just saying that there's a service provided and there's a misjudgment of the level. Now, someone doing deliberately, that's a different story. Now, the guidelines are pretty specific for that. So if you cover what you do in documentation, then you should be okay. Now, insurances, for example, every once in a while, they send these statistics to the physician offices saying that you are here and then everyone else is here. So then, therefore, what you are doing must be wrong. And then it's just a statistic comparison. The problem with that is if I'm smarter than the others and I educate myself in coding, I'm speaking from the physician standpoint, and I do it accurately, I don't care what those no kids left behind physicians doing, and I don't want to be compared with them. So that's if you trust what your knowledge, if you trust your knowledge, and if you understand what medical coding is. If you're not sure, then you want to be blending into the no kids left behind group. Fine, then just do a curve and then go with that, which is a horrible thing to do. You need to follow the specifics, and this never changes. You need to provide the service and then hit the elements of the coding. Now, as I said, the old type of fraud was based on the CPT levels. Now, there are changes in the payment method, how we are getting paid, how practices and facilities, hospitals are getting paid. So it's not just fee for service, but now it's the value part of it, like part of our income now, depending on how well we perform and how well we identify the risk for the population that we manage. So now this takes the audit focus from CPT level to ICD-10, the diagnosis level. Because when you build certain things in certain ways, especially after 2016 with the ICD-9 to ICD-10 update, what we have seen is there's a risk score there's a model that actually developed to better assess where the patient is, and then therefore you can actually get paid properly for the service that you are providing. Now, you and I, we do case conferences with our teams, and one of the things that we do is, do we capture everything that patient is going through? Do they have all the diagnoses properly captured? But also, did we address them?
Right.
All right, so this on the third screen, what we see here, monitor, evaluate, assess, or address, and treat. So that's MEET. So that MEET is kind of like the foundation of this. So not only you just need to indicate what someone has, but you need to tell me what the plan is, your assessment and your plan, and then you need to also monitor what they're going through. So what we do first. Our first meeting is the case conference, 8 in the morning every day. So the nurse presents the case, and then we say, well, A1C is not being addressed. Our focus is on the mainly on the quality, but I always say if you focus on the quality part, then and also educate yourself on the technical side of the business, that will actually bring everything together so then you are able to, without doing anything wrong, you are able to capture everything properly. So I'm going to elaborate a little bit. So if I am looking at a patient with BMI 52, and I'm the primary care physician, okay, and a patient is in my office for diabetes. So everyone has their demographic risk score, and there's the disease risk score from diagnosis, HCCs. So diabetes, based on how the A1C is controlled, can be 0.1 or 0.3 based on its control or not, right? So if you do, let's say, E1190, that's a uncomplicated, not complicated diabetes. So that means A1C is controlled. Then you just put that, and your A1C should correlate with that. If the A1C is over 7, 8, 9, based on that, you need to put E1165. And E1165 is 0.3 on the risk score side. So for like $10,000 expense, that can go down to, after the risk adjustment, it can go down to $9,900 or $9,700 based on like 1.01 with the controlled diabetes and 1.03 with the uncontrolled diabetes. But if your A1C is controlled, but then you are still putting the complicated, more severe diagnosis, so then you can kind of upcode. Now the upcoding is on the diagnosis side. So then that's a fraud. Now, many ACOs, they were struggling, just like us. We weren't able to get any return in the beginning. But then as we understand the system, the model, and educate our providers, we focus on not only just capturing them, but also treating them and monitoring them. That's why we have several care coordinators, several nurses, and also we have a daily workflow of the case conference culture. So not everyone is able to do that. Now, what happens, the reason this came up is because one of our competitors, and we do have good relationships with them, and it's an allegation, it's not final, or it's not, we don't know how serious it is, but because it's in the news, then we also want to better understand, and also we want to make sure that we communicate with our providers as well. So we have to make sure that we follow these guidelines of need to not just capture something, but treat those and understand exactly what needs to be. So then you are not over-inflating, you're just inflating what the patient's clinical status is. Now, there are, if you remember in January, Christiana Hospital, local hospital here, they paid what, 42.5 million. And that was a different type of fraud. That was more on the anti-kickback and stock-related issue. So there's services being provided, but then they made it easier for some providers by giving them extra resources. The issue is when you deal with federal government and the state government, these governments, their expenses are paid through our taxes. So therefore, there's a greater responsibility. So then no one should be able to take advantage of those. So that's why there are systems in place so that you cannot, benefit one group versus the other one if you are a nonprofit hospital. Well, Christiana Hospital did settle that case for 42 million. And that means they probably acknowledge this issue in that settlement, because otherwise they wouldn't want to pay that much money. So in the past, there were like nursing home related fraud. Like, so then a physician would say that they are going to the nursing home and run you on 20 patients, but they did actually really only 10. Then they bill for 20, and then no one is monitoring the patient's claims and then they get paid. This happened. We have seen it all. But my problem is with the ACOs, with the value base, where we focus on quality so much and the structure and like changing the behavior of the healthcare system, then someone is able to find ways to still cheat the system. Now, again, these are allegations. We don't know the actual thing until the court makes the decision. One of my other issues, and you probably heard me saying this so many times in the last couple of years, I'm like, how can we actually be the lowest on the risk score in the MSSP world? It's public, so people can go and check. And all this work that we do, all the structure we have, remember, like we have Oracle Health Power Chart in place, which all of our Delaware clients are in one domain, one shared domain, and we should be the most efficient, right? We have the system, but we couldn't actually increase our risk scores. And then I'm looking at the competitor, they're like 20% higher than us. So that means for the same work, they get paid 20% more, and it's a lot of money. So how? And I never thought about like other things may be happening, but if you rely on this technology 100% and then not to have the hands-on verification for the system, you can actually find yourself in trouble. But at least I don't actually beat myself up on why we are the lowest on the risk score, because now I know that it wasn't a fair game.
Right.
So
we're doing it the right way.
Now, remember, these types of fraud cases are happening so, it's not so frequent, but when it happens, you'll find these big dollar amounts. And then that money is not in the outpatient practices. Main reason for these types of fraud cases are the facilities. So, but this ACO now is being a bigger structure. Like, you know, I didn't realize that Aledade was valued at 3.5 billion. So when they started, they were like us. Now they're at 3.5. They're twice bigger than twice bigger than Christian Hospital almost. Well, you know, sometimes I can help when, remember, we discussed that in the past here when the founder is the Obama's healthcare advisor. So I was kind of worried about that part where do they know more than we do because they were successful from year one.
Right.
It took 3 years for us to get there. So am I, you know, dumber or are we not playing the game with the same? It's not a fair game. So it's not, the rules are not fair. Well, I was thinking that rules were not fair, but this is another level. So hopefully this allegation is wrong because I'm worried about this becoming the main focus for other ACOs. And I'm not worried about ours, but the ACO, the value base is the future of the healthcare. So imagine how much you learn from case conference process. I mean, I know how much you learn and our other team members, when we may have a nurse starting with us who's new in the business, and 2 months after those daily conferences, they are very knowledgeable. So we created these systems and we know that this is better for the patients, then why would we jeopardize this for those wrongdoings from others? So hopefully that's not going to be the case.
So for these fraud or like potential fraud instances, are there processes in place? So I know, like you just mentioned, our case conference where we're doing these patient chart audits on our own. Like, you know what I mean? You implemented that. You're like, nobody says, hey, you need to go review all these charts on a regular basis. Like that's us checking our, you know, dotting our I's, crossing the T's on our own. Is there mandatory process out there? Or do you think now, like you're saying, drawing this attention, you're seeing so many like lawsuits, will there be a more stricter, closer looking audits from?
So there are best practices, but I don't believe there is a mandatory, like there's other policy related stuff may be mandatory, but not this one. Now, every organizations should have their best practices for these types of things. Like just like
Right.
example of that best practice would be what we sign every year with our validation of the HIPAA and this and that.
OSHA, yeah.
So those are kind of like in place, and some of those are mandatory. But the point I think maybe I can make here to address your question is we call it case conference because we don't like the internally we don't like the word the term audit, but actually it's an audit.
Yeah.
So, and that's the hands-on part of the verification. I'm validating what the system is doing. System actually is the technology plus the physicians and providers together. But then another source from the central office is looking at there may be stuff that they did and they didn't bill, and then there are stuff that they are billing it incorrectly. I mean, you may remember, like we have the kidney failure stage 2. Initially, that was it was new on the risk scores, and then one of the insurances maybe didn't guide us properly for a week or two. We were not billing those, coding those correctly because GFR was not. It cannot be used solely to decide on the kidney failure stage 2.
Right.
So you need other
You need
things in
support.
place, right?
Mhm.
So then we that's if we didn't review them and if we didn't communicate with our physicians. Actually, one of our primary care pointed out that there was an issue, and also we internally were discussing, and that's how you can actually capture. Do we capture everything? Probably not. But the other thing that I would remind you is, how I sometimes flag the chart for medical director review.
Yep.
And then because there are some practices,
further.
right? There are some practices they have PAs and nurse practitioners. So, like if they haven't seen their doctor in the last 12 months, that's not a good practice. So when we are trying to do all those, they are actually part of that that workflow, and that's the review process, and everyone should be doing that.
Yeah, I agree. And then again, the one instance we're talking about right here, the most recent, seemed like it came about back in 2021. Do these types of things take years of like, we really need to see this
Well, they're
repetitive
investigating.
occurrence? Yeah, right, like,
Right. So like it can take several years to investigate something because they have to verify before they actually go after someone or somebody or some practice,
escalate.
some entity. They have to do their work. So it can take several years.
And then with these fines, would that be like a retro act, like they're getting fined from things that happened years ago that may continue?
So
Say year 22,
because
23, or
we like in the Christiana Hospital case, it's settled.
it was a
So the
one-time?
court didn't make a decision saying that you are going to pay me. We decided that you are going to pay this much. So before that, they settled with the mediator. So because it's a settlement, so you just have a blanket coverage for what you did.
What happened, yeah, regardless. Okay.
So, but it doesn't, if there are undiscovered issues, not discovered issues, it wouldn't capture those. So they can still go after those. But it would actually address that problem. Okay, so you did this and you have to implement X, Y, Z. So then it's just like if when someone does something, then they have to still do community service, right? I'm talking about the individuals. And the entities, they need to have policy procedure updates and certain protocols in place so then this won't happen again. So then they have to convince the court system in that case.
Right. So similarly, as you know, you mentioned you want to go to the US news. One of the things that did come out, which I know we're coming down on time, but I think it's worthwhile mentioning, the hacking, so the cyber attacks from the ransomware. Obviously that's a big part of healthcare. Everyone knows, like you mentioned, the HIPAA, PHI, all the very important patient information that's obviously, back and forth between, providers, office people, in terms of, keeping the company secure, anything you want to say on that? Just
So, I mean, remember, with what we are going through with technology, there will be always new challenges, new issues. But I want to tell you something. So, before EMR, there was a paper chart.
Manila folder.
So now, one of my friends, she had great concerns about other people maybe accessing her chart if she was in the EMR type of an office. This is 20 some years ago. So what I told her was, so you trust this little junk physician office all days with 3 exam rooms and 2 employees, and they keep your paper charts. You think that's safer than knowing that, yes, someone did access to your chart, but then you are able to see it, you are able to identify it, and who accessed to your chart. Like, we can't, swap those benefits for certain problems. Problems are always going to happen. So you wouldn't remember the days without the cell phone. I do. My first cell phone wasn't mine. It was my dad's in 1991. It was 560 grams. That's what, it's a huge phone. It's a Nokia. But it was the first one. It was the first 100 phones. And it was amazing. So I remember that because I couldn't believe that technology could happen. Now, when you were born, the iPhone was already in business, right?
Oh,
I mean, like when you were
They're probably working on it.
in your teens, the iPhone was already there.
Yeah.
So in my teens, there were Walkmans and the other things we didn't have. We had these car phones, like giants. So it was like a bag. So now we have these iPhones, right? So what you do is you do like FaceTime with this. You do everything that you can do on your computer.
Mhm.
So, and you can actually know everything that's happening. For example, just yesterday, 60 people died when they were trying to escape from, I think, from North Africa. I don't remember the country. 60 people died trying to migrate to Europe. I know this. Why? It's because I'm able to access this. If it was the old days, these things were happening and you didn't know, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is that the technology development is going to bring new challenges, but it's always going to be better than where we are in the past.
Mhm.
So now this thing happens, so I'm sure we have a lot to learn from it because we know that now, like some insurances, they couldn't process claims, but they didn't stop processing, getting payments from their customers. So then they stopped paying us. So now we need to make sure that if something like this happens, our contract needs to be updated. So then they pay for the service that we are providing.
Yeah.
So, and from our network standpoint, we work with Oracle Health. Oracle is the biggest IT company out there, and now they are behind us with the healthcare. So I know that we are safe, but this doesn't mean that things won't happen.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, I mean, one of the topics that we were going to have is going to address some of these issues on the global, in the global affairs perspective. So probably next week we can actually address some of the issues related to what your question is.
Mhm.
But as long as there is an enemy on the other side and they are working, they are going to develop something to destroy your system.
Right.
So that means you have to get better and you can't stop. So just like to think about nuclear weapons, why we have so much, and then now Russia has maybe some more, is because there's a threat. So they didn't stop making them, they're trying to make them better,
Mhm.
right? That means we have to get better. So then the safety only is gonna happen if you don't stop running and just.
Yeah, you don't want to be outdated.
Yeah, you don't want to be outdated. That's right, Lord.
Mhm.
All right. So the topic that we were going to have is the
Yeah, so
on the global side,
yeah, I'll briefly.
Belt
have
and Road,
the,
right?
Yeah, we have the map here. I know it's only a couple minutes, but yes, this is the trade routes. Is what Kemal was referencing there on some of the bigger picture schemes of why things may be happening, and we'll be able to go a little bit more in depth detail on.
So, I mean, if between now and next week, for those who are following us, if they were to look at China's Belt and Road initiatives, and now the other one alternative to that is from the G7 countries, Build Back Better World. So it's like the one world kind of.
3BW.
Yes, B3W and then BRI. So we are going to kind of explain this and also how this is going to affect us, how is it already affecting us, certain conflicts that we have in different parts of the world, and what we may be expecting in the future. But understanding this is going to probably help. Also, just like the cyber attacks, the other side, if they work more than you do, they can always destroy your system. So we have to understand our surroundings and then make sure that we improve from where we are. All right. Well, good to be back first week. So it was a long week. So it's also this month the second biggest religion in the world. Muslims are actually celebrating Ramadan. They started, I believe, last Monday, and we want to also acknowledge that, and hopefully everyone is having a great Ramadan, and hopefully Ramadan brings peace to Middle East, and maybe in this 30 days people will process things, countries will process things a little bit better, and then we'll get our common sense in place. So we want to thank everyone who are listening to us, and then we'll be back with Dr. Erkan and our Bariatric Friday event in a couple of minutes. And then we'll be back next week with a couple political guest updates. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.